Welcome back to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is Jon Sherman from the Four Foundations of Golf. And as always, I'm joined by.
Adam from Adam Young Golf.
So now we're officially recording. This is our first episode we're recording in 2026. So I know we had the lab putter episode come out last week. That was technically recorded in 2025. So happy New Year to you, Adam.
Yeah, happy New Year to you too. I love
And
this
to the
time of the year.
and to the audience. You playing any golf? What are you looking forward to this year?
Me? Yeah, I'm going to start. I don't really officially want to say it, and the reason why is I don't want to do it and then get injured early on because
Speed.
so
It's
I
got to be speed training.
yeah, that's going to be part of it. Yeah, the goals are I want to actually put some effort into training this year.
Nice.
Last year I fell down to a +2 handicap or plus
Ooh,
1.9, something like that.
horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, it was okay. My putting, yeah. So this is the thing, though. My putting got better. So my putting got 2 shots better. The other parts of my game got 3 shots worse.
Isn't that incredible how that works in golf when your weakness becomes maybe a medium or strength, and then something else that was a strength goes backwards? It's incredible how that happens in this game.
Yeah, it's so annoying. You never fire on all cylinders, right? But
Except
yeah, I mean,
unless you're Scotty Scheffler. That's the only guy.
yeah.
That's it.
I mean, the reason why that happened is I basically didn't practice all year. I maybe put an hour into hitting balls, but I was injured all year. We talked about it, golfer's elbow, knee issues, things like that. So, and I started to do a little bit more fitness, which caused the injuries, new types of things like
Yeah.
running and things like that, and cycling, which caused golfer's elbow. So, yeah, I'm going to stop those things, switch my fitness
Nice.
back to weightlifting, golf, and just walking. So I'm still going to do
That's my
fitness, but
stack. Yeah, that is all I mean, my fitness stack, whatever the heck people call it, the last 3 or 4 years is I try and do 3 full body strength workouts a week where I'm hitting everything on my body, like not too intensely, like 30, 40 minutes. I walk 2 to 3 miles almost every day. I've started to run a little bit, and of course I hurt my foot, so those overuse injuries are great. I love those. Yeah, so I think that's like a basic, like, get stronger, walk. I do mobility every morning. I do like a 5 to 10-minute mobility routine every morning for the last couple of years. Like, just try and keep it simple. That seems to keep things heading in the right direction.
yeah. I want to do more cardio because I feel like that's more important. The more research I do on it,
Yeah,
it's
it's
kind of
very
silly.
important. Yeah.
You think it's everybody says it's important, and then at some point I started to believe it wasn't as important, and now
Yeah,
I'm
to
starting
go
to
in the
believe
opposite
that.
direction.
Yeah, I mean, there are things where if you do it too much, it can actually go against you. It can have certain issues. But I think it would be very difficult. You have to be kind of Olympic level to get to that point, and even then,
Yeah,
the
I wouldn't
benefits
worry
outweigh the risks.
if you ran 15 miles a week, you'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I've also been watching like not Tony Goggins. What's his name?
Oh, Goggins,
Dave
David Goggins.
Goggins.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah, and obviously
he
he's
runs like
running on.
110. Yeah, his knees are destroyed. He runs like 200 miles. I've read his
Yeah, he's
book.
doing
It's
like
quite
bone on
good.
bone. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that stuff I'm is past now. That stupid toxic motivation stuff. That's in the rearview mirror for me. It's more about I want to do things because I want to do them now, not running away well. It sounds like he runs away from trauma. I don't know. I'm probably inciting all
the
the
book is
Goggins fans now.
yeah, the book, I think it's You Can't Hurt Me was the first one. Yeah, he
Yeah.
had a lot of trauma, and the fitness industry is filled with like different motivations. Like my view is like I try and do what's sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Like, and what's sustainable is like what doesn't hurt me, what feels enjoyable. Like I like lifting weights. I actually enjoy doing it. I like walking. I don't love running. That's why I'm kind of trying to pepper it in, but I want to do more cardio because as you said, the research is like, yeah, weight training is very good for you, but you also want to get your heart pumping, a few times a week fairly quickly. Doesn't have to be for an hour, but like 10, 20, 30 minutes seems to be like very beneficial to your cardiovascular health.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
yeah, I'm actually going to do some of the virtual boxing for that because
nice.
you're not actually punching anybody, but you've done the virtual boxing
I've
and
done some
it gets
shadow
your heart rate
boxing.
up.
Yeah.
It
I
gets
do
your
that.
heart rate up. Yeah.
I have a tonal machine. That's how I do my weightlifting. I love it. and they have a lot of cardio workouts. So I will do to the Rocky 4 soundtrack, I will do some shadow boxing routines, and those are quite fun.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna mainly it's for me. It's not even about getting better so much. It's more about documenting the process and
Mhm,
documenting how I go about this. So I've done my first baseline testing, done two baseline testing sessions. Fortunately, my first one I hit it freaking awesome. I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted it to be a bad session for the first one so I could show improvement, but it doesn't matter. I think there's going to be lessons in it anyway. And then the second one, I actually hit it pretty poorly, so that should be good.
so are you documenting in terms of, is this club head speed or strike
Yeah,
quality?
I'm looking at loads of different things. I'm looking at outcome consistency. So I've got certain tests like a 60-yard test,
Mhm,
100-yard test, where I'm looking at proximity to the pin, the distance control. I'm not actually looking at any impact factors for that, just pure outcome. For the 7-iron, I'm hitting shots. I'm looking at proximity, but I'm also looking at what my path is and my face in terms of consistency of standard
mhm.
deviations. But more importantly, outcome consistency as well, distance control, direction control, standard deviations. I'm even going to break it down into how many shots were inside certain areas and how many shots were outside certain areas. I think that's sometimes even better to look at than standard deviation, although they'll tie in very closely.
You know what I'm gonna ask you next? Are you gonna document this on YouTube?
What's that? Oh
Are
yeah,
you
yeah. No, that's one of my
good.
more
Okay.
general life goals is I'm gonna stop doing so much social media stuff
Yeah.
because I found it so invaluable to moving my business forward last year. The conversations, sorry people, but I spent a lot of work like talking with people, discussing with people on Facebook, everything they say you should do on business. And it took away from other areas of my business and really didn't move the needle. I found I was just arguing with people online who just are never going to get it, basically. They're never like you talk about something like differential practice, for example, or even, I saw a guy did something on shaping shots the other day, and this is the thing, right? You can argue with people online all the time that hey, trying to hit a straight shot is okay, and they just don't get it. They just don't get. No matter how much soundbite social media pieces you do, they just don't get it. It needs to be like long form, and so I'm going to put more effort into the podcast, more effort into long form YouTube videos, and
Yeah, I think
unfortunately
that's
for
the
people interacting less on
well,
social media.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't think I've logged into Twitter in the last 6 weeks. That was one of the main platforms I would interact on, and I think I'm heading in the same direction too. I'm more interested in doing in-depth, long-form content on YouTube because I think it suits both of our styles better. And yeah, it's I don't know. I go on. I realize like Twitter is not what it used to be to me or X. And there's just a lot of negativity on there. Not so much from golf people, but the way the feed is now, I don't feel like it was improving my life or my business. So I might be with you. I'm not sure if I'm entirely done with social media, but I've felt good taking a break from it and then putting more effort into just making better quality videos and obviously coming up with good ideas for the show we do here. So maybe we'll both do more of that in 26.
Yeah. I'm also going to go back to blogging, writing articles. So I know it kind of, for those listening, they probably don't understand, but AI has really hurt the blogging side because now you type in a question, like if you type into Google, what's the difference between swing direction and club path?
Yeah.
AI gives you a
Yeah.
summary of articles that I've written. And it just sucks because then people don't click through to my website and it's absolutely pointless. So, but if you want to keep up with my articles, go to adamyounggolf.com or just sign up to my email newsletter and to yours as well, John. So they see your, because we do a lot of email articles now that aren't even on the website. We just do them directly in emails.
Yeah, you and I have talked about, how everything's changing with AI, and I think a lot of people obviously consume content, but they don't make it, so it's hard for them to understand what it's like to do this for a living. But yeah, AI is definitely somewhat of a threat. It's getting better and better, and it's essentially taking all of the information on the internet and regurgitating it in different ways and not giving credit to anyone, which, is what it is. can't fight against it. It's already happening. So that's why I think video and showing personality and that stuff. And you and I have talked about, maybe we'll throw out the idea here live on the shows. Like we've talked more about community. Like you and I have bounced around, like, should we do a like more intense coaching community for perhaps, sweet spot listeners and other followers of ours? So maybe that's an idea I'll throw out there and people can message us, see if they're interested. I don't know. But yeah, it's things are definitely changing, but I believe, the more of the long form in-depth content where you're showing your personality and your expertise hopefully still sets you apart in an era where like information is getting more and more equalized. I don't know what the right word is for that, but it's just becoming, yeah, it's just the Gemini. You do a Google search and Gemini just summarizes everything now.
Well, yeah, it's so easy, and again, I suppose this is important for people to listen to as well. Is like how content is generated. It's like nowadays, it's really frustrating for us, I suppose, in a way, because we put a lot of effort into certain content, and then
Yeah.
you literally see that you put effort into content, then you see someone can literally just like someone could put our scripts from this
Yeah,
podcast
absolutely.
into ChatGPT and say, give me 10 Facebook posts based on it. I see so many on Facebook now. I see so many accounts from golf instructors. They're not real people. And their posts get hundreds, thousands of likes, loads of shares, and it's absolute rubbish because the post itself, you can tell, you can read it and you say, I know ChatGPT has generated that. I know this instructor doesn't even understand what they're talking about because there's some mistakes in there. And yet people are unknowingly reading this stuff and thinking it's good because there's a bunch of likes in there. Actually, it's interesting. When you go into the comments, though, lots of the comments do say this is rubbish or this is silly or something like
I
that.
don't go on,
But
I haven't gone on Facebook in like 15 years, so I don't even know what's on Facebook.
so the comments often don't match the likes and the shares on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's a lot of maybe new beginner golfers who are not super into it will go in and they're like,
Well,
oh,
yeah,
this
it's
looks
hard to
good. And they
discern
unknown.
what's, yeah, it is hard to discern. I mean, the videos now coming out, it is crazy. I mean, people are probably wondering like, what the hell is this episode about, guys? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's, we're, yeah, our best, what we're going to continue to try and do is we like doing more in-depth, longer content where hopefully, you adhere with our philosophy and our personality and our knowledge on golf. And we are, committed to continue and do that. And that's why I've embraced video more in addition to the, writing has been difficult because writing is easier to manipulate with AI now. And video is probably not far behind. Like we're getting very close to generated video where you can't tell if a real human is behind it or not.
Oh, I've already seen an entire channel, and it took me 3 videos to see
Yeah.
her hair move in the way. I think I told you this. I saw her hair move in a weird way, and I was like, "Wait, that," and I rewound it, and I saw, that's not moving with realistic physics." And then I clicked on it, and it says in the description, "Hey, this is a channel about AI, but it's also AI generated." Dude, you could not tell. You
I
go into
yeah,
the
I
comment.
I've seen the nano banana videos from Google, Google's AI. It is unbelievable. I've seen commercials and short movies that have been made by it, and it is incredible. And that's how good it is now. I mean, a year ago it wasn't great. So what's coming is going to be pretty wild.
Well, you've done the one where you sit down and take a video of yourself, feed it in, and then ask it to create another video. I sent an AI generated video of myself
Yeah,
to my own mother.
and
And
she
I
couldn't tell the
said to
difference.
her, "Hey, what do you notice about this?" And she
She's
looked
like,
at it
"Oh,
and
you
she
look
said,
great."
"Yeah, it looks, it's fine. What am I supposed to be looking for?" And I said, "That's not me. That's AI generated." She's like, "No, it's not. It's your mouth is moving the same. You speak the same. The tonality, everything was the same." I couldn't tell, dude. I was looking at it,
Well,
and
all
it's
right.
it's crazy.
We are AIs. That's what
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
just
yeah,
going to
yeah.
admit
So
that
be
now.
careful out there, guys. But yeah, follow us for the long form content, the blog posts, YouTubes, and obviously here we'll probably be doing less on social media. We'll still be there, but probably less. So, John, how can people sign up for your newsletter? What's the process for that?
I don't even put it anywhere. Fortunately have tens of thousands of people on it. I don't tell them where to sign up. But yeah, if you go to my YouTube channel, like it's on the links and all the videos. I'll put a link in the description to this. But yeah, we both do newsletters where we send out,
Yeah, mine
kind of
is
more
usually
in-depth stuff.
through a freebie. So if you go onto adamyongolf.com, the opening page is like, hey, free video on my top 2 things. You can enter your email there, or on any blog. Usually about the first 5-10% down the blog, he'll say, hey, get my free ebook, Golf Hacks, and you can put your email in there. So there's 2 ways to sign up there. So yeah, if you all right, John, what we
All
got?
right. That
What's
was
the
our incredible 15-minute introduction into today's topic. So today's topic is, what are the signs that you're getting better at golf? And like the obvious retort to that is like, oh, well, your scores are going down. Well, it's like, duh, yeah, that's part of it. The reason I've liked this concept and I've done it on YouTube a couple of times and it's been helpful to people is that myself for a long time and many other golfers don't have a clear picture of what the next level looks like, of what getting better looks like. They assume certain things, and usually those things are wrong. And I think we've spent 5 years trying to make that clear to people. And when you have those false assumptions about what getting better looks like, you don't do the right things. You don't stack the chips in your favor. So, I've got a list of things. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, and I'd welcome your input on, signs you are getting better at this game that sometimes are independent of scoring. So I do believe that you can be getting better at golf and your scores just aren't fully there yet. I think scores are more of a lagging measure. Like you could be figuring certain things out, and then 3 months later, it's like, oh, now I'm shot some of my personal best scores because it takes a while for it to catch up with you. So I did ask this on Twitter. Funny enough, I still do like asking questions on there because it's good to get people's feedback. So, what do you think was the number one response for the sign that you're getting better? And this was my number one thing on the video when I first did it. So, people all gave the same thing and what I was thinking. What do you think is the number one sign that you're getting better at golf?
I mean, I bet there was a lot of cocky comments on there, or
No, there were
just
some
being
interesting responses,
snarky.
but like it was my top response and it was also the most common response.
Score?
No, not
Lower
independent
score?
of score. It is not
Oh,
score.
independent of
You
score.
cannot say score. There's no scoring
Strokes
it because score
gained?
is too obvious. No
Strokes
stats.
gained
Like
getting better?
no,
No?
nope, nope. Here it is. You want to hear it?
Fewer lost balls?
That's it. Yes, you
Okay.
are finishing more rounds with the same golf ball, and it makes sense for a number of reasons. One, I'm going back to we did an episode with Mike Hutchinson, who's been a long time listener of the show. He now works with Arcos and their data side. And remember, we did a show on like statistically the leading reasons for double bogeys or worse. And when he looked at it, the two combined, the biggest category was errant tee shots. And a lot of people still don't love listening to Mark Brody's research and what strokes gained says about like tee shots being more important to scoring than putting. And everyone's, oh, it's all about putting, and people argue against that. But you can't play this game well. You can't score well if you're constantly losing golf balls, and that could be off the tee. It could be, even approach shots. But it's just you can cut yourself so deeply with those errant tee shots and foul balls than three putting. Like the penalty is disproportionate. So I can tell, like in my game, I used to be wild off the tee, and now I'm putting golf balls away. The biggest sign to me that I'm a better golfer now is like I'm putting golf balls away because they're worn out, not because I lost them. That to me is like a huge sign that you are heading in the right direction.
Can I tell you, I lost so many golf balls at the end of last year.
Well, you also play in an area, there's a caveat to this. You play desert golf. So if you play like desert golf or like Florida golf, for example, like you're going to lose more balls because there's more water in desert. So there is a asterisk to this based on the course you
Yeah,
play.
it's a case of your ball is either in the fairway or it's lost. There's
Or
no
it's
in
gone. Yeah,
between.
yeah.
Yeah,
This is like
they're pretty
binary.
wide fairways, to be honest. Or I find them relatively generous. The areas out here, but yeah, if you're off, it's gone. It's not even worth looking for. But I played 6 rounds in 4 days the other day, which is I don't think
That's a lot.
I
Yeah.
haven't done that since I was 15. I don't think, maybe 18. Yeah, and it was freezing. So I had to bundle up in things that weren't really got. I was playing in a puffer jacket at one point. It was
Okay,
so
that's
cold.
pretty extreme.
Yeah, and, I mean, I actually wrote an email on it about how difficult it was to adapt, even for me at my level, and basically because I haven't practiced that all year. Okay, so I that's part of my plan this year is I'm gonna practice adaptability. I'm gonna practice doing differential practice, how to hit it more right, how to hit it more left in certain increments, because I needed that. I needed that so bad at the end of the year with the puffer jacket on and everything very cold. The way it affects my body, all my patterns just become magnified. I hit it more left, I hit it fatter, I hit it more at the toe. The fat shot I was able to eliminate, but the left shot, it was just so far left. And yeah, I really struggled to adapt to it. So that's going to be a big part of my plan this year. And I lost so many freaking golf balls. I lost more over those 6 rounds than I have over the previous probably 6 years, I would say. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I had a recent experience, it would be the opposite direction of this. In most winters over the last 15 or 20 years, I've played golf in Florida. And if you play golf in Florida, anyone who lives there or has played there, like, knows that most of the courses are either built in some type of residential community or like a swamp area. Like, it is an unpleasant place to play if you are wild off the tee. And when I used to be wild off the tee, I hated it because I would lose, 2, 3, 4 balls around. And if anyone's read my book, they know about the anger outburst I had one time when I did lose a ball. And now I'm playing the same courses. I just got back from there. And I don't even like it doesn't, a sign that my game is in a different place, particularly off the tee, is that I don't even think about the water or these things off the tee, like with my driver. It just doesn't, it used to like dominate my thoughts and I don't give much consideration to it. So yeah, I think, people argue like what's a game that travels? And I often tell people like if you want a game that travels well, it's like keeping it in play off the tee, I think is priority 1A. Like you can play any golf course in the world if you can keep your tee shots in play. And that doesn't mean you have to hit it 300 or even hit it on, a laser. It's just that combination of club face control and strike quality with the driver or whatever tee clubs you're using is just psychologically it puts you in a different place in this game, I believe.
That's right. My not push back to that, but like push forward would be I hear that a lot. I've seen the post saying, "Hey, lose fewer golf balls." It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, great. How
Yeah,
do
of
we do
course.
that though?
Yeah,
How
how do
do
you
we
do it?
do
Yeah.
that? Like,
Yeah.
what's the actual take home from that? What's
Hmm.
the functional? What do I have to go off and practice or change in my
A lot of it
strategy
is
or do?
strategic. Yeah, a lot of it can be strategic.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would say, yeah, I would say that. That's why I'm pushing you to go. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it would be, if you are playing golf courses that, let's say, you know, you're sometimes forced to pick the lesser of two evils. So sometimes you're being forced to aim at a bunker instead of the water. So, like, if you had a hole, let's say, where water was on one side and a fairway bunker is on the other, you might have to aim at that bunker with the hopes that you miss on that. Some of those shots will go in the fairway, some of those shots will go in the bunker, and some of them will go in the rough, and more of them will not go in the water because the weighted math would say, like, hey, the less full stroke penalties you take here or OB shots you hit, there you go. Like that is one way to make sure you're making the right strategic decision off the tee on top of the physical skills necessary.
A great example of this would be the 18th at Sawgrass, right?
Yeah,
You got
everyone.
all
Yeah,
that
you got to
water
pay.
down the left. The
Yeah,
average amateur is going to pull their driver out and try and aim at the middle of the fairway because middle of the fairway is what you're supposed to aim at, right? I am a pretty accurate driver. I know loads of pros. Their strategy is to actually aim at the right side of the fairway. Sometimes even towards the rough,
yeah.
and they
Because
know
if
if
you
they hit
miss
it
there, you're like reteeing it like 350 yards back. Like you're essentially
exactly.
hitting another tee shot. You can't take a drop up there.
Yeah, and when you think about shot dispersions, what is it like 60 yards wide with a driver? So the reality is you want to be 30 yards right of the water on that hole. That should be your kind of aim spot or your target where you're trying to get the average median shot to land. And yeah, that can often be the right side of the fairway. And when we had Steve Williams on, Tiger's old caddy, he was talking about um, Sorry, I was
Pebble.
looking at your face. I did say it is Steve Williams, right?
Yeah, Stevie
Okay,
Williams. Yeah,
cool.
you
Yeah,
got
well,
it
I
right.
have these brain farts where I'm like, oh, I looked at your face. I was like, oh God, did I say the wrong name?
It's
Yeah,
Frank. It's actually Frank.
yeah,
What if I
Frank
told you it was
Williams.
Frank Williams and let you go with that?
So Steve was talking about how Tiger would, okay, his fairway hit percentage was quite low. But he said one of the reasons was Tiger wasn't aiming at the middle of fairways all the time. So as good a player as Tiger was, he would pick his spots. And yeah, I'm like that. There's certain holes I could think of that there's out of bounds on one side and just you've got, okay, there are trees there, but you've got another fairway on the other side. And I'll aim at the rough on that side, knowing if I hit it straight, I have a shot to the green. If I miss it left, I'm actually going to be good. And if I miss it right, okay, I deal with that. It's going to be a
Yeah,
difficult shot, but it's not a lost ball.
the basic rule of thumb, and it's a chapter in Brody's book that I've always referred back to in my head is like the bigger the trouble, the more you aim away from it, if possible. Like I understand some holes have OB on both sides, so I always hear people's retorts. There's some holes where you're just like, yep, I got to aim down the middle and hope for the best, right? Bigger the trouble, the more you aim away from it. And more importantly, like I guess, the lower your skill level, also the more you have to adjust away with it. So for example, like if you had trees on one side and rough on the other, I'd say the skilled driver of the golf ball might adjust like left center of the fairway, where someone who's a bit wilder off the tee, like they might have to just aim at the rough. So it's a combination of how big is the trouble, OB being obviously the biggest, or is it bunkers? Is it trees? Is it water? Is it deep rough? And what do you have on the other side, and how good of a driver of the golf ball you are, and then you have to make those minor adjustments. But yeah, that is, I would say one of the things like you can keep track of for the year if this is a problem for you. I like to think of driving statistics quite simple. You could use strokes gained, but to me it's like in play or X. So in play would be in the fairway or a clear path to the green with a reasonable lie in the rough. Check. You hit it in a recovery situation in the trees, lose the ball in a fairway bunker, that's an X. And you just try and work on the checks and the X's with your strategy and obviously practice. And like, yeah, that is a lot of this game is like getting more check marks, whether that's, fully losing the ball or keeping it in play. Like it's just I think another quote that's been like regurgitated over the years. And I think Brody kind of put it in his book too, is like with the putting thing, it's like, if you can't drive it off the tee, you can't score. Like you just can't. Like you cannot overcome too many penalty strokes and tops or whatever. Like you'd have to have the most incredible Sevy escape slash short game ever to overcome a very poor tee game.
What I
So
tell
yeah, God.
what I tell people, because I use the finger system where you work out, okay, how far things are offline in terms of fingers. For people listening, that's in the accuracy plan. And what I tell people is if there's out of bounds on one side or water on one side, try and make sure that your driver is aimed around about 3 to 4 fingers away from it,
Mhm.
if possible. If
Yeah.
possible, if there's nothing on the other side, 3 to 4 fingers away from it. Even with an iron, I'd say 3 fingers away from water. So, I've was playing a course the other day and there was water on the left and the edge of the right side of the green was 3 fingers away from the water. So I was hitting a shot in and my friend was like, what are you going to do here? And I said, oh, I'm aiming at the fringe. He said, what? He said, why are you aiming at the fringe? I said, well, if I miss it, I can miss up to 3 fingers left without being in the water that way. 1 finger left, 2 fingers left, 3 fingers left, all going to be relatively good. If I hit it straight, I'm on the fringe. And he's like, yeah, what if you miss it right though? And it's like, well, I'll just deal with that. It's up and down. And I did. I hit the shot and I pulled it 2 fingers left. If I had aimed where he wanted me to aim, I would have been in the water. I would have been chipping and it would have cost me at least a shot and a half because you're chipping from a drop zone. And instead I had a 25-foot putt for birdie. So you kind of dealing with these things. It's all math. It's all math.
Yep. All right. Next one. So keeping more tee shots in play. Okay. So next one, I've got a bunch on my list. I'll just pick a couple here. Okay. Mulligans and gimmies. So I'd say like, listen, everyone has taken breakfast balls and taken gimmies from their buddies. I have. I'm not I'm not above it, right? I'm not going to tell everyone I don't, I play matches. People give me putts sometimes. I don't take breakfast balls anymore though. But I think these are like signs of mental crutches, so to speak. So like, if you're having first tee jitters and you know that your group, so let's say you play in a normal group of friends and everyone knows you're going to have a breakfast ball. It's just like an implicit agreement amongst the group because everyone's scared of the first tee shot. And you're like, well, I know I'm going to get a reload. You're never really like confronting that thing. Or if you're constantly taking 3 or 4 foot gimme putts and all of a sudden you want to go and qualify for your club championship or a tournament, and you're going to have to face those putts where all of a sudden 3 feet looks pretty damn long, you're not going to make a lot of those putts because you have not put yourself in the situation where you have to make them. So I think a sign that you're getting better at this game is that you want to take on those shots. You don't want to take the mulligan. You don't want to take the gimme putt as easy as it is from your buddies. And I would say like that is one of the main benefits of playing stroke play tournament golf is that you are forced to deal with the discomfort and the psychological fear of, all right, I've got a 3 footer that's downhill breaking right to left for par or bogey, whatever it's for. And now that putt, rather than just scraping it away, you've got to spend the next minute or two dealing with like that potential fear and discomfort of saying like, well, I don't want to miss this thing because that would feel horrible missing such a short putt and losing. You're not technically losing a full stroke, but it feels like it in the moment. Yeah. So I think, one of those like small intangible signs that you're becoming a better, stronger golfer is that you have less of these mental crutches. And the two most prominent ones are, I think, the breakfast ball, the mulligan, and taking gimmies all the time. Like I would say that if you're doing less of that, you're becoming a better golfer.
Yeah, nothing to add there.
Yeah,
We
yeah, it's just
usually play with a bit
well,
of money, so
yeah. Listen,
it's
I understand that people play match. I play a lot of matches, like group team matches, and like yeah, sometimes strategically someone will give you a 3.5 foot putt early in the match with the hopes that they're not going to give it to you later in the match. But I would say that in the I don't know few hundred stroke play tournament golf rounds that I've played, I've had to face so many of those 2, 3, 4 footers over the years, and I've missed a lot of them. That's kind of like it's not to say I'm not scared of them, but I'm less scared of them if I was just taking gimmies left and right. So, yeah, I think it might not be gimmies or mulligans. Maybe there's another mental crutch. I'm trying to get obviously people to think of their own games here. Maybe it's something else for you that you're maybe taking the easy way out too often. So I think a sign that you are getting better at this game is that you are, again, facing the discomfort and not taking the easy way out more often.
yeah, the guys I play with always they play breakfast ball off the first.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
like
standard
it's
practice for so
guaranteed.
many
I'm
groups.
like, I hate it.
Well,
Because
again,
especially
yeah,
if we're playing for money, it like puts me at a disadvantage as well. Because I'm like, well, I don't use the breakfast ball, and they almost always do. So it's like that's an instant 2 shots
yeah.
or
The
one shot
match I was
advantage for
playing in,
them.
the match I played in Florida a few weeks ago. Yeah, that was. I'm like, even before he's our breakfast ball today, I'm like, I said no. I'm like, nope. We got to count him because I want to put the pressure back on you. All
What's
right, so
next?
something to think about. Okay, this is a very sweet spot one, but I think a sign you're getting better is that some people don't like the term reacting to targets in golf, but I feel it's an all encompassing term for me. It's more of like you're reacting to your targets on the course versus swinging to them. So, what does this mean to me is that, you know, are you spending the 30 seconds before a wedge shot or a drive or iron shot rehearsing or thinking about all of the technical things you need to do versus being more of in like a zone where you're like, that's my target. And I'm just kind of like, when I feel like I'm playing my best golf, I feel like I'm playing another sport. I feel like I'm playing basketball where someone's coming at me and I have to shoot that jump shot. I feel like, playing football as a kid and you're playing quarterback and you got to throw the ball before your friend kills you. It's more of like you can't do that exactly in golf, obviously, because we're initiating the action, but I'll never forget the conversation I had. I probably brought this up on the show a few times, but I played golf with a former NFL kicker. His name is Ryan Longwell. He's a great kicker for the Packers and the Vikings. And he's a great golfer too. And I was just fascinated by him because I was like, well, you have one of the few positions in team sports where you initiate the the action like golfers do, or pitcher is it'd be similar. And I was like, how did you manage that going into the game under all that pressure? Because I mean, I think that's one of the hardest positions in all of sports. These guys have 3 or 4 chances at it. Often the game is hanging in the balance at the end, and they have to march in there and kick this thing. And if they miss it, like the whole city is going to want to kill them, literally. And he would just say to me, he's like, I was so in my process in practice where like we would go through the same exact thing, the special teams, the guy who hiked the ball, the guy who's holding the ball. We would do it over and over again in the same cadence, in the same exact way. I'd be on the sideline. If the team was marching down the field, I was kicking. And when I got in there, it was just like doing that timing and that's how he was reacting to his target. It was like, I'm just going to do this thing that I've done over and over and over again versus think about I don't kick footballs, but I'm sure there's technical things they have to worry about. But he wasn't, he had done all that work. And it was more of like, that's my target. This is my process. And I'm just going to hit the go button. And that's my hope for most golfers is to get to that place more often versus what do I have to do with my body to make the ball go to the target? So that's the other option.
It's interesting because I would say in different parts of the game, I'm different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, say, if you put me on a tee with an iron, I'm almost more in my own bubble. Like, for
Hmm.
me, the target doesn't exist in that way. I'm almost like, because I practice so much indoors on a mat with all these lines and everything. It's just me, the mat, the ball. That's almost what I'm recreating on the golf course. So I have an intermediate target, and Jack Nicklaus talked a little about this. Billy Andrade also mentioned it as well. This kind of bubble they create around themselves. So it's more of that. It's external. It's outside of your body. It's not a swing thought, but it is it's not target oriented as well. Whereas in chipping and putting, I'm much more externally focused, like you said, reacting to the target. So it's much more, my brain is not thinking anything movement wise, really. I'm just like, okay, there's the target. This is how I wanted to fly, roll. So different parts of the game I do differently. I know Annika Sorenstam, when she played her best, she was all about target orientation. My pushback to that one would be there are lots of golfers where if I give them that focus,
Hmm.
they put a horrendous swing on it.
Yeah. Well, I think you
And
have to do the work to
yeah,
hopefully get to that point. So you're consciously working on these things with your body off the course with the eventual goal that when you get on the course, I gave an example of the one of the best in the world at something. So we're not going to hit golf shots like Ryan Longwell kicked field goals in the NFL. Like he's the absolute was the best at it. So I think, for the golfer right now who is all golf swing, so right, they're stepping up to every shot, rehearsing their swing, and it's all they're thinking about. And the target and everything else is like secondary. I'm trying to get you to flip that more often so it's less dominated by the golf swing. Not that you can't think about the swing, but it's more of like it, that's why I said in the beginning, like reacting maybe is not the best term, but it's more of like a autopilot slash like I'm thinking like what was I like a long time ago versus what I'm like now is that yeah, it was just there was no consideration to all of the other things. It was just like a fear and obsession with everything my body had to do. And it was just too much. I couldn't do it because I was so focused on it.
and I think there's a
And
sliding scale, isn't there? For
yes.
everything from complete target orientation all the way, it gets more and more internal. You get to, okay, target orientation, then you get to, okay, it's external, but close to you, things like impact things. Then you get internal,
Yeah.
which is like, that's where most people are. And I agree, they're often too stuck in that place. From what I've seen in the research, it says that the simpler the task is and the more mastered the task is. Not that you can ever master golf, but the more you can push towards that external goal. But I think many beginners start out there, right? Because they don't have any concept of any swing stuff, but then they quickly get sucked into swing jail.
Well, so that would be another way of putting this is like you're escaping swing jail, right?
Yeah.
If you're in swing jail and a sign that you're getting better at this game is that, I don't want to give the idea that you don't think about your swing at all like that. That's insane. But it's more of like you don't think you're playing golf swing anymore. Like you can move beyond that and allow some other things to enter your mind that are potentially more productive than thinking like this whole round has to be about how my body executes, right?
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
is way overboard. That's swing jail to me. That is not reacting to targets at all. That's not playing the game instinctually. It's too extreme on the golf swing part.
There's a few exercises I do with people to help them get out of swing jail and get more into that external stuff because I've done it with myself and it helps as well. So one of them would be if you're on a range, we're so used to putting sticks down and lining up and that is a good productive thing to do. I'm
It
not
can
saying
be.
it's not.
Yep.
But occasionally, like I say, if you go to that point where, okay, I'm stuck in swing jail here, I'm too internal, or there's no external awareness. One thing that I used to do was I would hit a shot and then I would align more left and
Mhm.
try and get it back onto the target. Then I'd line up more left, try and get it back onto the target. Then I'd line my body up right and try and get it back on the target. Or I would just pick different targets on the range and just shuffle myself around until it felt like I was instinctively aligned. So that really gets me into, okay, how am I going to get this on there? Because something, this was mentioned in a forum the other day, something that in terms of consistency, something that's underrated is lots of people say, well, consistency is going to be a product of you doing the same thing every time. But often there's an element that's kind of hidden, which is the ability to, like what you're talking about, to react to a target. So an example of this would be if you put a beginner and you lined them up absolutely perfectly, or even like a 15 handicap, you lined them up perfectly and you said, right, try your best to make the exact same swing over and over towards that target there. And they did that. And you looked at their shot dispersion. Now you put Bubba Watson or Tiger Woods on there on the mat and you say, Tiger, I'm going to force you to aim 15 degrees to the right for this shot. And I want you to try and get that ball back on the target.
No
Now aim
problem.
15 degrees left and get that ball back on the target. I guarantee you Tiger would have a tighter dispersion than the amateur trying to do the same thing over and over. So there's an
Remember
element
that
there.
shot he hit out of the bunker like 4 or
Oh,
5
yeah,
years
yeah.
ago where he
I
had
did a
to, I mean,
blog
that
post on that,
oh
yeah.
my god, like
Oh, Bubba and the Masters hooking it
yeah,
around the
that
tree
was
on the
yeah.
last.
I
But
still I still like this is a side note on that one because that was the one that he beat Louis Oosthuizen in the playoff, and I think that was the round where he made the albatross on 2. Not that I'm not a Bubba hater at all, but I was pulling for Louis that day, and that was I couldn't believe that shot that shot that Bubba hit. I think maybe Ted Scott talked about that when we had him on the podcast. I mean, that is one of the all-time greatest shots in major championship history. It was just insane.
yeah,
To curve a
I
wedge
mean,
that much off of pine straw is just mind-boggling.
yeah, I mean they've got the ability to hit these shots, but even it's just the ability to know where a target is in space and understand on some level, whether it's technical, instinctive, very instinctive in Bubba's case, to be able to guide that back to the target. So,
Yeah,
I often say to people, we have to try, yes, we have to try to reduce bad variability. Like you don't want to go on the golf course and intentionally line up everywhere apart from the target. But also, we're going to have some variability. If you looked at tour players' alignments, yes, they're going to be better and closer to the targets than amateurs, but there are still going to be mistakes there. So we have to have the ability to unconsciously, I don't want to say compensate, but add good variability for those errors as well. So both of those things are needed. And that last one is the untalked about element. And that drill I said where you're intentionally aiming offline and trying to get back to the target, yes, don't make it your entire practice. Don't do that all the time, but it should be a part of your practice
yep.
occasionally.
Should I move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let me pick here. So, another sign that you are getting better at this game is what happens when you miss greens. So we've talked a lot about stats in the past where like fairways hit and putts per round on their own aren't descriptive enough. Like if you tell me you hit 60% of your fairways off the tee, like I do not know if you're a good driver of the golf ball. I don't know how far you're hitting it. And more importantly, I don't know what happens when you miss the fairway 40% of the time. Are you hitting a ton of foul balls? But we have discussed when Mark Brody was on the show, and I mentioned I still love greens and regulation as like a rallying call for your game. And he's like, well, why don't you just tell me what you shot? Because they're so correlated. So, like, iron play and the amount of greens you hit per round is obviously a great predictor of your scoring ability. But most people don't hit. If you look at the stats, like I've seen, Shot Scope has given me access to their database. Scratch golfer is hitting 50, 60% of their greens. They're not hitting 70, 80, 90%. No one is really. But a better thing to measure is what's happening when you miss them. Because to be honest, if you were tracking your stats and let's say you were a 10, 15, 20 handicap, yeah, it is going to be reasonable for you to only hit 20, 30, 40% of greens in regulation, which is, to be honest, like a little demoralizing. But what's a bigger scoring differentiator and a sign you are heading in the right direction is some refer to it as the near green in regulation. You can call it the almost green, whatever you want to call it. But what's happening when you miss the green? Are you leaving yourself a straightforward chip shot just off the green? Or are you leaving yourself a lot of 30, 40-yard pitch shots over bunkers or you're short siding yourself like that? Has more influence over most of you listening to this show, your scoring and your ability to play well this game than hitting the greens. Like I'd love for everyone to hit more greens, but those are really the signs. Like, are you like when I'm playing my best golf and I hit like 14, 15, 16 greens, the other ones I miss are like literally just off the green. They're like short chip shots. And I think that's why I find myself in my chipping predicament because my iron play got pretty good for a while and I wasn't leaving myself a lot of hard wedge shots. I just wasn't testing that part of my game as much. So, yeah, I think that's something to like think about, keep track of, rally yourself around is what's happening when you miss greens and why. More importantly, the why.
Suppose you could look at three elements there. Is it near the green? Number one, when you miss it. So is it within like what, 10, 20 yards of it? Is it safe? Because you could be close to the green, but in the water. There's lots
Yeah,
of,
yeah. Obviously, you got penalty strokes there
um,
too.
and then is it long sided? So you don't want to be near the green, safe, but short sided. So if after every missed green, you can give yourself 3 points and try and rack up most points and then average it to per green missed to see if you're getting better in that element.
Yeah, I think similar to what I said on tee shots, like if you want to keep very basic stats, obviously you can keep track of greens in regulation. That's fine. I always tell people like you want to play your best golf, build your game around greens in regulation, which means two things like better tee game and better iron game. Like that's, you're going to shoot very low scores if we do well on that. But keeping that secondary stat of kind of like, did you leave yourself pretty much, did you leave yourself a wedge shot that you're going to get on the green most of the time at worst? And that you can leave in like that 10 to 20 foot circle. If you're able to wedge it, let's say you miss a green and you could wedge it to like 10 to 20 feet, you're not going to three putt a lot. So you're going to make, that's another topic we'll discuss, a better bogey. Uh, but you're just not going to make a lot of doubles if you do that. And obviously you want, I know everyone wants to get up and down for par, and you will do more of that as well. It's much harder to do that if you left yourself, a wedge shot over a bunker to a short-sided pin or like a 50-yard pitch shot. It's just harder to do. So, yeah, I think that's kind of like a silent sign of a better golfer is that when they miss greens, they're not putting a ton of pressure on their wedge game.
I had a player the other day say to me, they were setting their practice schedule and they said, well, I want to make sure I'm 5 foot away on average from
Good
20 to
luck.
30 feet.
Yeah.
So from 20 to 30 yards
Yeah.
chipping and
So
pitching.
be
I
the
want to
best in the
average 5
world.
feet. And I was like, I wonder what the tour stats say. I
It's
said, that
probably like
sounds a little
7 or 8 feet.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, number one in the world was like 6 feet.
Yeah.
Average was
Yeah.
9 foot
Median's probably
something.
like 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 foot something.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've
And
seen
your
a lot
chance
of
of
this.
holding a 9 footer is what, 40%?
Exactly. So like ShotScope has some good stats here on like proximity from wedge play. And like, yeah, I think scratch golfers aren't getting it inside of 10 feet. And like, yeah, you got to think about like what's more what's more realistic and what actually has more influence over your scores. So if you're looking to break 190 or even 80, I know we beat this to death, but like that's not necessarily more heroic par saves. It's more like less, double chips or leaving yourself a 40 footer that you three putt for a double bogey. Like it doesn't sound as exciting, but like that's easier to do when you leave yourself these manageable wedge shots. And similar to what we discussed on losing less golf balls off the tee, part of that's strategic. So the cardinal sin of most golfers is that they do not take enough club and they miss it short of the green. So naturally, if you don't take enough club, you will leave yourself further away. And a lot of that is obviously strike quality, how well you're striking out of the face and turf interaction. So like it's a combination of both. Like you can get better at this by not short siding yourself, by picking better targets with your approach shots and the physical skill element as well. So yeah, that's another sign that you're getting better at this game. Like you just leave yourself better wedge shots around the green.
I had a lot of that this recent round where I played awful. I've actually got a stats tracking app up and running now for myself, and I was tracking all my errors, and
Hmm.
almost every missed green was misjudgment of conditions because it was so cold out there. The ball was flying like 2 clubs shorter, and I could not get, I could not force myself to hit certain clubs. But yeah, these track what's costing you, what's causing these missed greens as well. Because it could be different things. Like I could go off and practice my strike quality endlessly, and that if that's not the problem, then it's not the problem. It's not going to help.
Yeah, I guess that'll be a good segue into my next one. So that would be your what you just said is like what I would call like mastering the intangibles of the game. So what are the intangibles of golf? Here's a few examples that come to mind. You step up to a ball that's in the rough and you can quickly diagnose, okay, that is sitting up well. I know on some level that will be a fly or lie. Ball's going to go higher, more likely. So I need to kind of protect myself on the longer side of the shot. Maybe the wind is with me as well. So you just have these like feels being like, I know when I hit the ball higher out of the rough, it goes much farther. So I will adjust my club. Vice versa. You walk up to a ball that you can barely see and you're 180 yards from the green and you're like, usually that's a 5 iron for you or whatever it is, or a hybrid. And you're like, I know that because that ball is so deep, I just can't get enough club on it. The longer club is going to dig through the turf more. And you're not thinking about this literally, but you just have this like instant understanding that I need more loft and like I need to bite off less on this shot. Or no different than walking up to a ball around the green and it's, you know, buried in the rough and there's a bunker between you and the pins there. And it's like, I got to play this more conservatively and go way past the pin here. Or as you said, like wind stuff and elevation changes. Like some golfers don't factor the wind in at all and they're, 20 yards short and they're like, I didn't even think of that or that the pin was much higher. I didn't realize that. So there's like all these like little things that don't require as much mental energy to process as you get better at this game. And I think that's a true sign that you're achieving mastery in golf, or at least heading in the right direction, where you're not only acknowledging these things, but you're not also expending a ton of energy before a shot on them. Because the one thing that I've noticed, especially when there's more pressure, and let's say you play more tournament golf, things move faster and you don't have as much time. And the player that has true mastery in these intangibles doesn't need that time. I've always used that example of like the great poker player who can take the flop and analyze their odds and the hand they're playing, the two cards that they have, and the betting habits of all the other players on the table. They're just so good at processing it quickly versus me, I'd be like, wait a second, I have a king and a set. I'd be like, go back, like, what cards do I have again? Like, what? Yeah, it would take me forever. And it's the same thing in golf. Like, you just have this processing power of all these little things, or even how you're hitting it that day. So, yeah, I think this is a huge one is like your game is getting better when you are mastering these intangibles.
Yeah, the amount of information we process as good golfers. Like if I had to verbalize what I do on a shot, it's crazy. Like it's okay, the ball's there, the lie is like this, the ball's gonna come out like this. I need to take this less club. Okay, the wind is this direction, my target is there. I need to adjust it for the target. Okay, how do I adjust it for the lie? The
Yeah.
ball's a bit above my feet. Okay, so I gotta aim right, open face. No, I'm verbalizing things that are all
Yeah.
unconscious
Yeah.
here. Oh, it's a little colder today. Okay, what if that ball lands short? Maybe I should bias the aim a little bit more there. Okay, what's my pattern today? My pattern is left. Okay, I need to weaken off that grip a little bit.
Yeah. There's a
It's
lot that
crazy
goes
how
in,
it's
like, and even like, I'm thinking to the rounds I just played recently in Florida. Like, it was windy and I'm playing in Bermuda. And I just know that because I am a low spin player and my ball's sitting up in Bermuda and I was downwind, I'm like, I know this shot's going to go forever. Like, because it's just going to launch higher. The Bermuda's not going to grab at it. And I could hit this easily 20, 30, 40 yards longer than normal. Therefore, I need to take way less club. Where someone else, that might not be the case because of, like, the tendencies in their swing. So yeah, I'll go back there. There's always that perfect example of, remember that interview with Phil Mickelson on the Faraday show? Did you
yeah,
ever catch
I
that?
was actually thinking of this
Yeah, that's
exact
a
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you just went through the exercise, but remember, like, he just went off. He was just like, "Well, the temperature is 3 degrees less," and blah blah blah. Yeah, he's just like waxing poetic about all the things that he considers before he hits a shot. And yeah, he's right. Like, he is, Mickelson is one of the best to ever do it, and his computing power, his intangibles of being able to process all of that while being under incredible pressure is, like, one of the best to ever do it. And he loves to tell you about it too, which is, part of his, like, personality and obviously his cockiness. But he did it. He hit all those shots. He made a lot of bad decisions before he won majors too, right? He was, one of the, I think, more like Arnold Palmer, who kind of shot himself in the foot more often by maybe pressing on the gas pedal too much, where Tiger and Jack were more cerebral and strategic at times. But yeah, that's one of those things where, like, I know there's a lot of people listening to this show who are just starting out in golf. Maybe you're a COVID golfer or you just haven't played enough. And that's something that, like, we try and teach you that on this show all the time. We try and help you with these intangibles, but it's something you do have to earn and pay attention to. And it doesn't always show up on the scorecard either. That's why, I talk about these things. Like, what does better golf look like? You can't see this. Like, I can't, like, I know certain players have this when I'm playing with them. Like, I was playing with a junior player over the summer, who was probably 14 or 15, with his dad. He's a listener of the show. And I went to him after the round. I'm like, your son has incredible instincts for golf. Because I could kind of pick up on him, understanding these things. And I'm like, he has very good instincts for this game because, you could just see him managing himself really well on top of his physical skills. So, yeah, it's something that I think it's obviously near and dear to my heart, these intangibles, these playing skills, but it is a true sign you're heading in the right direction, that you have more of this processing power on the course.
What's next?
All right, let's go. Let me cross that off.
Can you hear the leaf blower outside, or was it?
Yeah, was there?
It's still going. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. We'll edit that out, hopefully. Okay, another one. This was actually a good response on Twitter. What's a sign you're getting better at this game? Better players are inviting you into their games. So that was one that I didn't come up with myself, but it does
Yeah.
make sense. So, for better or worse, as you play more and more golf and you maybe grow your social network, let's say you're at a club or you have, your group of golfers, there's no question that there is a vetting out process. So, I'll just say it, better golfers like to play with better golfers. If you asked a really good player if they want to mostly play, like, who's competitive, like, they're going to want to play with more players of their level. And sometimes, yeah, you'll get invited into a game, and this has happened to me, where I know I'm being judged, right? Like, I know I'm being vetted. Like, can I handle this game? And if I can't, if they say, like, oh, I'm an X handicap, and you come in their game and you just totally shit the bed, for lack of a better term, you're likely not going to get invited back to that game. I'm not saying it's fair, but it happens. And I think that as you progress to different levels in this game, there is an element of, yeah, there's certain like gatekeeping that goes on where you say like, oh, you got, and I've seen this happen. Like you know, I didn't get the invites and then I started getting the invites. I saw the difference. And then when you go in these games and you can handle the pressure, yeah, you get more of these invites back. So not saying it's good or fair or whatever, but it's just kind of a truth that, yeah, when you start to not only lower your handicap, but show that you could manage yourself in uncomfortable situations where someone invites you, yeah, you'll get those better invites from better players. Like you'll start seeing more of them for better or worse.
Or maybe you'll stop getting invited to
Or you
certain
stop, yeah, or
parties.
you'll stop. Yeah, it is, it's part of the game. Now, some people might not want to be part of those groups. Like some, so I always want to asterisk stuff like this and saying that like there are plenty of realities of golf where you don't want to be with ultra competitive golfers and you want to gravitate more towards players who maybe aren't even keeping score. You're just going out there and having a few beers at the end of the day and just smacking the ball around. Like you want to go in that group, that might be more appropriate for you. Or you might like playing a lot of matches and being ultra competitive. And like that's more of like the sign in that world. Yeah, there's absolutely gatekeeping going on, and like, you know, people will text you back being like, "Hey, would love to have you in this game on a Friday morning, and we're with the good players, like you're in." There's that too. There's all different spectrums, obviously.
Yeah, I like the guys I play with who are kind of like 10, 15 handicaps. It's relaxed. I did play these 6 rounds over 4 days. We played money.
Mhm.
And I mean, you know me, I'm super loss averse.
Yeah.
So we were playing like 100, no, $50 a hole or something. And
Wow, that's big
yeah, and
money.
over that many
I don't
holes.
like that. I don't like that. It
Well,
doesn't make me feel good.
so the thing is, if it's off scratch, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
But
if it's
we
no
were giving
strokes, yeah.
shots and we
Yeah,
were
yeah,
off different tees and they
yeah.
wanted me to play off the backs.
That
So
I
it was
don't
like
like.
it was
Yeah. You
7,200
might as well
yards
just
long.
go play like CeeLo with the dice in the locker room afterwards. It's just like straight up gambling. Like there's no rhyme or reason to that, in my
It
opinion.
was it was just it wasn't fun because it was 7,200 yards long, right? And it's
Mhm.
cold, and I'm
Yeah.
wrapped up, and I'm not a
Yeah.
long hitter as it is, but because I'm off a +2, they're like, well, you gotta go off the backs." I'm like, "Okay, I
That's
understand.
where the
It's fair enough."
negotiation
Like,
happens.
summertime, I'm good with that. Free swinging, it's hot, but it wasn't fun. It was a grind, and even though I took money, it was just I didn't enjoy it. I didn't
Yeah,
enjoy it,
I'm the same
honestly.
way. I was, you know, the match I played in Florida, someone wants to play for, you know, what do you want to play for? I'm like, I told him like, I don't like winning a lot of money from people and I don't like losing a lot of money from people. I like playing people. I like playing competitively. I like beating someone and or, you know, having a good match even if they beat me. But like the money thing doesn't really do it for me. Like getting, I think I won $100 and I was like, I told the guy, he was like, he was gonna Venmo me, and I'm like, I really don't want your money. I'm like, don't even
Yeah, I
send it
feel
to me.
bad
And he
taking
like
people's
insisted. He's like,
money.
nope, you want it, you get it. I'm like, this doesn't do anything for me. Like it's you know, I'm just glad we had a good match and it was a fun day.
And with the shot stuff, it kind of
That
sucks as
becomes
well. There
harder.
was
Yeah.
there was one round where again 7,200 yards long. I get to the 16th and I'm level par. Right, I've ground it out off this
Yeah.
monster course for me, and it's freaking cold. And I'm with three down, three down, and they have 2 shots on the last 3 holes. And I'm just like, well, and the guy I'm playing with is hitting it longer than me as well.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm just
think,
like,
yeah.
I don't like I
Well,
I'm
as
not
you're, I
enjoying
think
this.
Lou Stagner's done a lot of good work on this because he's done like a lot of handicap policing stuff. And like it is, so it's harder for the lower handicap player to perform, to give away more strokes than the opposite. So you know, a 2 handicap scratch plus handicap giving away to a 15 handicap, they're at more of a disadvantage because it's harder for that player to make a gross birdie than it is for the, you know, player who's getting the strokes to make a net birdie, just because gross birdies are just incredibly hard to do. So I, me personally, like if you gave me a preference, like, yeah, I'd rather play a match where no one's giving any strokes. It's all straight up.
Yeah,
I
much
enjoy,
easier for a 15 handicap to shoot
yeah,
10 under their handicap.
I do like playing with players of all levels though. But so if we're going to be doing that, then I'll say like, okay, let's make it $20. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah,
play you
yeah.
for over 100. Like,
I
if
even
we're,
hate looking. I hate losing 20
yeah,
bucks as well.
I don't,
Honestly, losing 20 bucks is more emotionally destabilizing to me than winning 300 bucks. I'm so loss averse.
well,
That's why I'm okay being living in Vegas because I just don't gamble.
yeah, you don't go to the yeah, I realized that at an early age playing poker with my buddies. I'm like, I said the same thing to him. I'm like, me losing $10 to you is worse than the joy of winning $30, whatever we were playing for then. So I'm with you. I don't love it either, but I like competing. Money sometimes has to
Yeah.
follow with that. Okay, so but that is a sign, like, amongst the golf circles, like, yeah, you start getting better invites from people, from the better players. Like, that means you're showing up and you're doing your thing. So moving along on my list, switching gears, I would say that the concept of two bad shots in a row. So the thing that I've noticed amongst better golfers, everyone hits bad shots relative to their skill level throughout their round. I think it was maybe a Walter Hagen quote. I'm hoping I'm getting that right. Walter Hagen, or someone of his stature historically, said that, he expected to hit, I think it was 7 bad shots every round. So when they showed up, he wasn't shocked. There's been many different variables of that quote over the years. But what I've noticed amongst, you ask me if I play with an elite golfer, a really good golfer, versus someone who's like just above their level, it's more about the 2 bad shots in a row. So maybe they do hit the errant tee shot, but then they recover properly. Maybe they do hit the poor iron shot and leave themselves in a dreadful wedge shot, but they get it on the green and they walk out of there with a bogey at worst. Maybe they happen to, chunk their wedge, or blast a putt 6 feet by. Like, as you get better at the game, and it's a combination of skill and also like the intangible side, the decision making and mental fortitude and all that stuff, you see less of those compounding of errors. And it's more about that than it is about, oh, how many times did that player flag it today to 10 feet or 5 feet with their irons? It's more about like, yeah, I saw them, hit a loose shot here, but it didn't derail them. They just kind of like, it just kind of happened and they like glossed over it and didn't turn it into a mess. Like, that was, I remember when I first started getting back into golf seriously, and when I turned 30, one of the guys I was playing at with the course I belonged to, his name was Tom, great tournament player. And that's the thing I noticed about him. And, something I gleaned learning, playing with a much better player than me when I got invited into his game, appropriate to the last point. I was like, this guy just doesn't, like, he'll screw up, but then that's the end of it. He won't do it again. And that is, I think, a true hallmark of a better golfer, is that they just don't compound mistakes as often.
Yeah. I'm thinking of when they do hit a bad shot, it's a better bad shot. And I know it's obvious.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
think of a more
yeah. It's
specific way of
less.
wording it, but
Yeah.
you've seen those overlays of like, okay, they got a hole, they've got water on the left, pins tucked on the left. So for
Hmm.
everybody visualize this, and then they overlay what would the pro shot patterns that week.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see that even if you verbalized or you did a little interview with the pros hitting their shots in and you said, what are you going for? I'm sure a lot of them would still say, hey, I'm going for the flag. But when you look at the actual outcomes, their misses are going to be more right, away from the water, towards the fact side of the green. So whether it's a conscious decision, it's good strategy on their behalf, or whether it's an unconscious thing, they know somehow, oh, that water's dangerous. I flared it out to the right. Oh, it's a bad shot. But it's a better bad shot.
Yeah,
Now you
I mean,
overlay the amateurs' shots over that same hole. Obviously, it's going to be wider because it's an amateur shot pattern, but it would be probably more 50-50 spread as well. There'd be some right and a lot more in the water left. So their bad shots are more biased into the
yeah,
danger.
it's the difference of like, it just plays out at every single level. 20 handicap, 10, 50, whatever you are. Like, you show me someone who's in the middle of the fairway from 150, and I'm like, what's the worst outcome from this player? Chunking it 5 feet in front of them versus, thinning it 30 yards short of the green. I'd much rather have that 30-yard pitch shot than a 145-yard shot for my next shot. And that's, it's not necessarily how many times is that player going to flawlessly execute a 7-iron from 150 yards in the middle of the fairway. It's more like, no, they're not going to like lay the sod over it as much and it goes nowhere, or like hit a pull smother hook that, goes 70 yards into the rough. Like, as I said earlier, they're going to miss the green better. So it it's such a like counterintuitive part of golf in general. And that's why I think we also try and find so many different ways to say this, is that like that is mostly the difference, is that the initial crap shot wasn't as crappy and then they don't. So the other part of the two bad shots in a row is this. So I would say the most damaging situation for most golfers where they throw away strokes so quickly, and it's much easier to throw away strokes in this game than it is to like get them back. So, the takeaway there is like this. Let's say you hit that poor tee shot into the trees. Then like the gambler comes out, the poker player on tilt, the person at the blackjack table who's on a bad run. They're like, well, what can I do to make this up? What stupid decision can I make to get all my money back? And the player that hits the initial poor shot and then finds themselves in a difficult situation will often, either knowingly or unknowingly, make a bad decision on top of that. That simply could have been avoided by like just saying like, oh, I'm just gonna like pitch out into the fairway 50 yards over here, or just kind of take my medicine. Like, I know it sounds so simple and I say this all the time, but like that really is the difference between a lot of players, is that they don't hit two bad shots in a row because they just stop themselves and they're like, yep, par is out the window. I'm not going to try and make par from this horrible lie in the middle of the trees. I'm just going to like get out of here and do my best. That is, I can't. I must have said this over 1,000 times in the last 10 years to people, but like that's it, right? Like you do that less often, you're going to find yourself in those situations multiple times in every round you play. Like that is how you erase 3, 4, 5 strokes off your scorecard quite easily. Not easily. It's easy to make. It sounds easy right now, but it's more about like handling your emotions and the temptation to do something stupid. That's the hard part.
And you're talking about compounding. You're talking about from shot to shot, so one shot to the next one. I'm also thinking in terms, this has been kind of on my mind a lot recently, about compounding errors within one shot. And what I
Mm.
mean by
Ooh.
that is this relates a lot to the big miss,
Yeah.
right? Because I had a lot of big misses recently, and I love it because it helped me come up with this theory.
Perfect. Our pain is your pain is everyone else's gain here.
Yeah, so a big part of the big miss is we've all got variances in our swing, right? And in our setup. So, for example, sometimes when I set up, my grip is going to be marginally stronger. Sometimes it's going to be marginally weaker, which is going to affect the direction, right and left. Sometimes my alignment is going to be a little bit more to the right, a little bit more to the left. Sometimes I might roll the face over a little bit more, or sometimes I swing harder and have the hands lagging behind me. It tends to be as a pattern for me. If you ask me to hit 100 shots, swing hard as you can, my pattern's going to be more to the right. But if you ask me to, hit an 80% shot here, my pattern's going to tend to be more to the left. And then maybe another thing might be an external thing like the lie. Maybe the ball's above your feet sometimes. Maybe it's below your feet. Now, I believe that a lot of where the big miss comes from is when lots of these little things that by themselves don't make an issue,
Mm.
but when they add to each other,
Yeah.
they compound. So, okay, on this shot, you line up a little bit more left than usual. It's maybe on a slight upslope, and maybe you didn't notice that, which is your fault. Maybe it's a shortish shot and you decide to take one club more and swing it easier instead of going for the opposites. That's another left element in there. Maybe you also take a slightly stronger grip for that one. Maybe so all these things and these four things compound, and then that massive big shot comes out. Whereas for the better players, they're better at sensing those things and balancing those things more often.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just you're just essentially like, in my head, it's like you're biting off more than you should chew, right? So like sometimes I'm thinking when I do it, like sometimes I'll get a little too aggressive off the tee where like let's say I have like a very open hole and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna tee this one high. and I'm just gonna like let it rip and hit up on it and do everything I can to like fly this as far as possible. Sometimes when I do that, I hit the ground with my driver. I'll bounce it off the ground, which is kind of crazy to me, but so yeah, it makes me think like when I try and do something out of the norm, then I get like sometimes I will hit the big drive, but then other times I hit a shot where I'm like, oh, I just lost like 40, 50 yards because I smashed the ground like 3 inches behind the ball. Like I don't usually do that ever, but you could easily translate this to wedge play or iron play too, where you're like getting way too cute with it and trying to do too many things at once. Where I'm like, oh, maybe I tried to like choke down on that iron and hit a punch shot and curve it into that pin a little bit more. And I just straight up like messed the entire shot up. Whereas if I just did the simple thing and played my stock shot, I would have been fine. So everyone has some version of that where you're like, you're just doing too much. You're trying to do too many things at once, I guess is what you're trying to say.
Well, yeah, there's that element. I'm talking more about how the little things. So you can categorize interventions that
Yeah.
you
So
make,
you're
whether
not,
it's strategy, whether it's a technical thing, whether it's a lie. You can categorize things into things that make the ball go more left,
mm,
things that make the ball go more right. Things that make the ball go longer, things that make the ball go shorter. So you could categorize almost everything like that. It's like for me, a stronger grip makes the ball go more left. A faster, more aggressive swing from me makes the ball go more right. You know, some of these things are individual and you have to find these out for yourself. Some of these things are more directly obvious for people. Like ball above your feet makes the ball go more left. That applies to almost everybody. And then it's about there's all of those are happening all the time, and there's like a subtle soup of them, and it's about how we balance them. And I say the big miss comes when too many elements go one way and we didn't catch them quick enough.
yeah.
So maybe a longitudinal version of that would be the pins on the front, and you decide I'm going to get aggressive with this. You also decide I'm going to hit a shorter club that if I only flush it, it's going to get there. Also, you didn't take into account that the wind is a little bit more into the face than you thought it was. Maybe you thought it was left or right, but no, it's swirling into.
Yeah,
And those
that's what I mean.
three
You're
things compound
you're
together.
biting off, yeah, you're biting off more than you can chew, and you've introduced a more extreme outcome. No different than like another example I notice in my game is so if I have an in between shot, so like we've had an episode on distance control. Sometimes, many times, we feel like we're in between numbers with our irons, and you have a decision to make. Do I hit a little bit harder or to take something off? And when I take something off, I tend to hook it more. So I
Me
need to
too.
be careful with that, and I need to kind
Me
of
too.
either keep the face open a bit more. I've actually hit a few shanks this year doing that too, probably because I'm coming so much from the inside when I try and take something off. But yeah, that there's just like these little things that when you deviate, from stock, we'll call stock your normal, that yeah, you're potentially introducing more variables. So yeah, but that's getting back to the two bad shots in a row. Yeah, I think either knowingly or unknowingly, better players are doing less of this. And that could be this example. It could be the example of being in the trees and trying to just make a boneheaded swing. There's many ways this shows up, or it's just your baseline skill, right? Like you tell me like who's the better golfer, I often say like the one that does not hit, you just don't see them hit two crap shots in a row. They just don't do it, or they do less of it. And a lot of that's just because like they've got more skill. Like they're just not going to hit, like you tell me what's the difference between a +2 and a 0 or 15 and a 17, like they will not do that as much. It is a huge sign that you are becoming a better golfer. That's one of
You
the
know,
biggest in my
a
opinion.
huge aspect of that, what you're talking about there, is adaptability, is the ability to identify the error and adjust. So when I think of someone who hits lots of bad shots in a row, usually it's the same bad shot, like someone shanking
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
three in a row on a
Yeah. Or
course, or
just
fatting two or three, or
slice, slice,
missing them
slice. Yeah.
left. Yeah,
Yep.
because they number one, they don't know what it is. They have to adjust, perhaps. Or if they do know what it is, they don't have the tools to be able to, or they can't do it in the right amount. So those are the things that I teach people in lessons. It's like, hey, do you have tools to make it go more left and right, longer and shorter? Do you have, how good is your ability to adjust these things? You know, I can test someone, hey, can you hit it more off the toe? And they're like, no, I don't know how. I say, okay, cool. You need a tool for that then. Let's give you a few tools. Okay, now you have the tools. Can you hit it more off the toe by 5 millimeters? Can you do it 10 millimeters? Can you do it 15 millimeters? No? Okay, well, here's the exercise that improves that skill. So that's a big key for me.
So, yeah, I think, can I make a suggestion since we're almost at the end of our usual time? I've actually still got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven more of these. So maybe is this a two-parter? Do you want to continue with this? Or I can't.
I can't because I have a call with the
No,
client
no, no, no.
in a
I mean,
moment.
like, my question was, we'll do next week. We'll do part two of this.
Oh yeah, yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I always never know. We haven't done a two-parter in a while, but I will say, like, back to our initial introduction on this episode of like what it's like to create content. I guess the hard part about doing podcasting versus like YouTube or social media, for example, like we don't get a lot of feedback. We get a few comments here or there, but like if we put something out on YouTube or let's say social media, I will hear like, do not do part two. This sucked. Like I will get clear feedback. So I like this topic a lot. It was very popular when I did on YouTube, so I'd like to do part two. So let's do it. So we'll
Yeah,
wrap it up
mailbag
there.
episodes or
Yeah,
top 10 lists or
yeah, yeah.
anything
People
like
love
that.
a
I
good
think it's good.
listicle.
Yeah,
I
sometimes we
love.
go deep into a topic, sometimes it's
I
more
l- I
surface level.
I enjoy the listicles just because it allows you to like move through different topics. And the reason I want to do this with you is because when I made this as a video, it was just my viewpoint on it. So I knew when I said these things to you that you'd obviously have a different spin on it. So yeah, I hope we'll do part two of this. But the main theme is that, and it comes from like a kind of a looking back at my journey through golf is like I didn't know what better golf looked like for a long time. I didn't play with golfers who were a lot better than me. Like it was just a, kind of a nebulous thing to me that I was totally wrong about. And when I started to see it more often in my own game and in others, I'm like, oh, that's what better golf looks like. So, yeah, I think these are just kind of like things that hopefully remind you of what you should be doing, or hopefully like they are previews of what's to come if you keep heading in the right direction and what you should strive towards. And it's not about like hitting spectacular shots. Like, yeah, it's sometimes about finishing the round with the same golf ball or, missing a green 10 yards short versus 40 yards short, or not trying to hit it over the lip of a fairway bunker when you hit an errant drive and leave it in there and make a triple instead of a bogey, or being able to walk up to your golf ball and quickly know the type of shot you should play based on your limitations and the wind and the lie and all the other things. So it's all these like little things that add up. All right, we'll wrap it up there. We'll do part two next week. Adam, where can everyone find your stuff?
AdamYoungGolf.com. Sign up to the newsletter so you know when I'm writing new blogs, doing YouTube videos, new podcasts come out. John, where can people
Nice.
find you?
I'll put a link to my newsletter sign up. I still do it 2 to 3 times a month where I'm trying to give like, they're like mini blog posts. I'll do like 4, 6, 700 words on whatever I'm thinking about that week. So I'll put a link to my newsletter in there. And of course, my YouTube page and for Foundation Golf. So thanks to everyone who always makes it this far to the end of the episode. And we'll see you next week with part two of this discussion.
Cool.
Okay.